Hello everyone, my name is Ermal. I work as an iOS developer at OpenResearch, and today my presentation is called Beyond the Apps, and we're going to be focused on the external surfaces that we as iOS developers can extend our apps so that the users can reach and can use our apps through different states. First of all, for many years developing iOS apps was just like building like functionality, design and UI, everything behind a home screen app icon. But in the recent years, with the new iOS UI frameworks and technologies, this changed. Now we can extend our app by giving the users more options to use our app even when the app is closed. That's why we chose the title Beyond the Apps, and by the end of the presentation I'm sure that we will see why I chose this specific title. Today we're going to talk about widgets, live activities, dynamic island, and also local notification, and how everything can be linked together through app intents. In this slide you can see that I put the title One App Every Surface. During this presentation we're going to use Charging Stations app finder. During the presentation we will see how we use widgets to help users navigate through this app easier, how we can use local notification to get the attention of the user without being too much complicated, and also how live activities help the user see the process which they start in the app and see the process of these apps, the events, without opening the app. Also, the title One App Every Surface has another meaning. It means that when we build a business logic for everything outside the app, we should use only one state, meaning that if we start a charging session in our app, it should be mirrored in the widget and also in the live activity, so that we don't have experiences where you start something somewhere but it doesn't mirror correctly on the other surface. Let's start with native widgets. Native widgets are a perfect use case of adding an external surface of our app to the home screen. Why? Because a user with native widgets can be super easy to have quick information, see glanceable information on their phone without opening the app. For example, our charging stations application, the user can add different widgets which we can provide. In this widget they can see the stations, price, if they are open, how many slots are open, and so on, without ever opening the app. Now this is the whole idea of how we can help the user navigate through our app. Native widgets can be provided in three different sizes: small, medium and large. It's important to know that each of these sizes should be provided correctly to the user. What does it mean? It means that if you want to provide just one station with just one price and also quick information, then we should not use large size or medium size, because it doesn't make sense to get a huge space in the user's home screen to just provide some small information. If we want to display, for example, let's say 3 charging stations, and also say the current price, how many slots are available and so on, then we could use the medium size widget. But for example, as seen in the screenshot here, we want to display also a map, then it makes sense to use the large size widget. Here we're going to see how we actually build a widget in code, and then we're going to go into more details about the timeline. This timeline entry is the most important thing in the widgets. There's a special slide here where I'm going to go into more details, but first it's important to know that the widgets are not live data. First of all, we define a timeline entry. We specify a date, and then we also specify the model which we're going to use. As our example, we use the station model. So we configure the data we want to display, and by the date we set how many times do we want the widget to refresh. Because as I mentioned earlier, widget is not live, meaning that it should have a time frame where it refreshes and reloads the view which we see. How a widget is built. Everything starts with defining a widget bundle in our app. This tells the iOS system that I have this iOS application which also provides native widgets. Then we do the configuration part. The configuration part is all about defining the size, defining the data which we're going to display, and also the refresh rate itself. The timeline provider is the whole view for the whole day, how we're going to manage each reload and what are we going to display there. The timeline entry is a simple entry, or let's say a single snapshot of the widget at a given time. This timeline entry is then displayed in a simple SwiftUI view, which is the final part here, and it's what the user actually sees in the widget. Let's talk more about the timeline view and how we manage this. First of all, like I mentioned, a widget is a timeline, not a live view. So, for example, our charging station's demo app, during the day, it can display different views, but we define the refresh rate, the reload rate. For example, the minimum is 15 minutes, but the user can choose any time frame they want. But still, we don't exactly know how many times the widget can be reloaded per day. Why? Because Apple manages it inside the system, because of course there are constraints when displaying widgets in the home screen, constraints like performance, battery, and so on. So if you have an iOS app, you added widgets, but these widgets are not used too much by the user, or if the device battery is low, then the system itself will slow down the refresh rate, and it will refresh not that often. So in our example here, we have like 4 different times, and we have selected the 2:30 time frame. So now the refresh rate at 2:30 gets the new data, displays. We see that the price changed, and we display the same widget view until the next refresh time, which is 18. So this is important to know, that a widget is not live, but snapshots of the different time frames during the day. If we want to display live data to the user, which the user sees on their phone and gets instant updates of what's happening, then we're going to use live activities. From these services, live activities is my favorite, if I can say it like that, because for the first time, user can start a process inside the app, and then without the need to open the app all the time and see the progress of that process, whether it's like ordering food, charging their vehicle, connecting to their Starlink system, or something like this, they can see that directly in their lock screen. As I mentioned, contrary to the widget, we get live updates by the second. So as seen in the screenshot here, we started the charging session in our demo app, and then we see the percentage, the time left, and also which station are we using. How we build this? We can see in the code, first of all, a live activity has attributes and content states. Attributes are the properties which don't change. For example, we start a charging session in this station called, let's say, Maria Hilferstrasse station. That name will not change during the whole process, so we don't bother to reload it. What will change during the whole process is, for example, percentage, minutes left, and could be other stuff or other properties based on the live activity itself. For example, if we have a live scoring app for a match, then of course the result is going to be a part of content state which reloads all the time. In the code here, we can see that we defined minutes and also percentage, and then the station name is left as an attribute which doesn't change. The dynamic island is an extension of a live activity. What does it mean? It means that if you already started a live activity and you can see it in your lock screen, then it will also appear on your dynamic island. Dynamic island was introduced from iPhone 15, and you can see the same information also there. What's different from a live activity is that dynamic island supports 3 different states. It supports minimal, compact, and expanded. So minimal is when you see just a tiny icon, or however you design it, that tells it, okay, this specific application is doing something in the background, which you can see the progress. The compact is a bit more extended, and the expanded mode is when you tap on it and you can see the whole view as seen in the screenshot here. Same with live activities, we also have here content state and attributes, attributes which don't change, and content states we define all the properties which change. Regarding local notifications, this is also super important. First of all, every iOS developer should not treat a notification as billboards to their app, meaning that they should not display push notification just because they want to get the user attention, just because they want the user to open the app. Every push notification should serve a purpose. For example, for a messaging app, it's okay if you receive push notification every time somebody writes you. But if you send a notification to your app that just so you can open it in the dashboard or something like that, then it doesn't matter, and it's just a bad UX. First of all, a notification should serve a purpose. In our example here, inside our charging station app, we have a feature which the user can make an appointment for their vehicle service. And the user does this in the app and says, for example, sets a specific date. And then we can define a local notification that, okay, a day before or 2 hours before the appointment which they set, we can send a local notification. But here you can see in the screenshot, in this local notification, we also add 3 functions: snooze, reschedule, and directions. Each one of these serves a different purpose, but you can see that we are giving the user the option to not just open the app immediately, but also to interact with the app without opening it. For example, the user gets a notification, hey, your service appointment is at 9:30. We give him the opportunity to snooze it. By clicking the snooze action here, an action is called in the app, and we define it. For example, if the user hits snooze, we snooze it for 2 hours, 3 hours, a day, and so on. So the user did an action inside the app without opening it, but simply from an action we defined in a local notification. Reschedule. With a reschedule, we could fire a deep link that opens, for example, the event details, and we give the user the option to set a different date and time. Also, this is another case that we don't open the app by notification, then the user to find the specific screen. We simply define it outside the app from the notification. Directions is a similar action to reschedule. Here we can also trigger, for example, to open the map inside the app, or open the map in another application. So all of these are happening while the user can decide from the notification how to continue. We can see these notifications in code. So here we defined snooze, reschedule, directions, and each one of them serves a different purpose, as we saw. Action options can be foreground, destructive, and authentication required. Foreground, for example, was the snooze option, which did an action inside the app, but the user did not have to open the app and do that. It was all done in the background. Destructive is when we cancel, for example. We could define a cancel action that, okay, I want to cancel my appointment for today, not snooze it, not reschedule, but cancel it completely. Tap to app, no app launch. I call this regarding app intents. Why? Because tap to act, meaning that each action which was defined in the widgets, live activities, and everywhere else, was that a single tap would do an action without the need to open the app itself. App intents are all these actions which can be defined in the code and can be triggered without opening the app. All of these app intents, for example, starting a charging session or stopping it from our live activity, is an app intent. Why? Because you're doing something without opening the app. All these app intents can also be triggered via Siri. For example, if you say, hey Siri, stop my current charging session, then it would know that, okay, this current phrase is defined as an app intent for this specific app. What will I do? The definition is that the current session should be stopped, and then it stops without ever opening the app. Here we see the code itself. We defined this an example, the stop charging process. We define the parameters. We use the app intent protocol. And as we said, these app intents can also be searched in the iPhone Spotlight. For example, if you search stop charging, or if you search something else, it would appear immediately. Next, we're going to see our app demo. I need a minute. Okay, so here's our example app called Charge Finder. So as we saw earlier, we added the widget bundle for our app. So when we see the list for adding widgets, we see that our app is also part of the list here. When we click it, we get the 3 different widget sizes which we defined. So a small size, we display a single location with a price. For a medium size, we display more information and also the opportunity to stop a session. And with a large widget, we also display a map and more information for each station. Let's add, for example, a large widget here. So the widget, as I mentioned, has a refresh rate based on our definition in the code, but also on the properties of the device, like battery level, usage, and so on. So here, if we click, for example, this one, it will trigger this app intent and open the detailed screen of the station we saw. We see that, okay, this one is actively running, meaning that the charging session is already live. Okay, so here everything stopped. I can start a new one. Then I can close the app, lock in the screen. Here's the live activity which we defined. As we mentioned, the content state, the percentage, time left, the progress bar, all of these are being constantly updated based on the information we receive from the app service. Here's the app in our locked screen. And we can see the dynamic island is also in the compact mode. We see this small icon and also the percentage. If we click and hold, we will expand it and see the whole information as we saw in the live activity. We can stop this. And if we search in Spotlight, for example, start charging, or stop charging. Here's the app intent, here's our app logo. So the app is closed, we search something in the Spotlight, and we immediately have it as a chance to start this action without opening the app. The same phrase can also be said by Siri, but since I'm using a simulator, I can test with Siri now. I'm going to open the app and also simulate a local notification. So here I'm going to send me a push notification after 5 seconds. Okay, receive a notification. If I tap and hold it, here are the actions we defined: snooze, directions, and reschedule. So we are not sending a push notification just to get user attention. We are sending it to give the user options to remind him of his service appointment, but also they can immediately act on it without opening the app, whether they want to snooze it, reschedule it, or turn it off completely. I'm going to go back on my presentation. Each service, one framework. Yeah, basically, as we saw also in the code, for each of our external services of iOS apps we defined, we use ActivityKit for live activities and dynamic island. We use WidgetKit for defining and building native widgets which appear on the home screen. User notifications for defining local notifications and for also defining the actions for them. And app intents, which basically give them together completely by defining actions which can be triggered by outside the app. Designed for the glance, not to launch. Yeah, takeaways from my presentation is that, first of all, regarding widgets, we should display widgets in the information which is important to the user, and not just see widgets as a way to promote our app in the home screen. We should use live activities for giving the user the option to see a process which we already started without the need to open the app constantly. Okay, so this was my presentation, and as I mentioned in the first slide, beyond the apps, the reason was that to use these external surfaces to go beyond the app and give the user the option to do all these processes and to give them more ways to interact with our apps. If you have any more questions, if not, I will wrap up my presentation. Thank you.